Malik walked into that courtroom with his hands visible and his head down, the way life had taught him to survive. Judge Rourke saw a quiet, black teenager he could humiliate in front of a laughing crowd, someone easy to break with his twisted little game called truth or lie. Every answer became a trap. Every word of explanation turned into proof of guilt. The room leaned in like it was entertainment, and the judge smiled like a man who'd never lost control of his courtroom. But what Rourke didn't know was that Malik had spent years preparing for this exact moment, studying law in libraries, memorizing procedures, building a legal mind sharper than anyone expected. And when this 17-year-old finally opened his mouth to cite the rules from memory, that courtroom went silent in a way that sounded like judgment. Stay with me till the end. Subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from, because this one burns slow and lands hard. Malik arrived early with his grandmother, Lila, and kept his hands visible the way life had taught him. The security officer lingered too long on Malik's hoodie. He asked questions no one else had to answer. "Empty your pockets, all of them." Malik complied without hesitation. His voice was calm when he said, "Yes, sir." Other defendants walked through without pause. The officer greeted them with nods and easy smiles. Lila's grip on Malik's elbow tightened as if she could hold him together by force. They sat beneath a peeling poster that read, "Equal Justice Under Law." Malik stared at the words until they stopped meaning anything. The courthouse moved around them with practiced efficiency. It already knew his outcome. A woman in a worn blazer appeared in the doorway. She held a file folder against her chest and scanned the room. "Malik Avari," she called. Malik's chest tightened. Lila squeezed his hand. "It's Malik," he said quietly. The woman didn't look up from her clipboard. She turned and walked toward the conference rooms. Malik felt something shift in his stomach. Fear mixed with resignation. Lila whispered, "Keep your head down." "I will," Malik said. But he didn't believe staying small would protect him. The system didn't care about size. It cared about who you were before you opened your mouth. They followed the woman down a narrow hallway. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled stale and recycled. Malik counted his breaths to steady himself. The woman stopped at a door marked Attorney Conference B. She pushed it open and gestured inside. Her expression was blank, professional distance masking exhaustion or indifference, or both. "Give me 5 minutes," she said. The door closed behind her. Malik and Lila sat in plastic chairs. The silence stretched between them. Lila's voice was soft when she finally spoke. "We'll get through this." Malik nodded. He wanted to believe her. Down the hall, a man's laughter echoed too warmly to be innocent. Elena Park returned carrying the file and a legal pad. She sat across from Malik and Lila without making eye contact. Her opening felt rehearsed. "I'm your public defender. We have about 10 minutes before court. I need to explain your options." Malik waited for her to continue. Elena shuffled papers and spoke in practiced phrases. She assumed he would only understand fear and pleading. "The state has video evidence. Your best option is to accept the plea. It keeps this off your permanent record." "What video?" Malik asked. Elena paused. Something shifted in her expression. The question was too calm, too direct. "Security footage from the gas station." "Can I see it?" Elena's fingers hesitated over the file. "That's not how this works. We review evidence during discovery." "Can I see the discovery?" Malik said. His voice was respectful but firm. Elena felt a pinch of irritation. She wasn't used to juveniles asking procedural questions. She opened the file and started counting pages. Her breath caught. The file was thinner than it should be. 3 pages where there should have been 7. Maybe 8. "There's a supplemental file," she said quickly. But her stomach tightened. She'd filed enough motions to recognize gaps. This wasn't bureaucratic mess. This was intentional. Malik's eyes found hers. He didn't accuse her. He simply waited. Lila sat rigid beside him. "What's missing?" Malik asked. "I don't know yet," Elena said. The silence hung between them. Elena told herself it was normal. Courts lost paperwork all the time, but the pinch in her stomach disagreed. Down the hall, a door opened. A man's voice boomed with practiced warmth. "Good morning, everyone. Let's make today a good one." Judge Rourke's laughter carried into the small room. Elena's shoulders tensed. Malik watched her reaction and understood. The woman defending him was already afraid. The courtroom smelled of old wood and floor polish. Malik stood when the bailiff called his name. He kept his hands at his sides. Lila sat in the gallery behind the divider. Judge Calvin Rourke entered through the side door. He wore his authority with casual ease. His smile suggested he enjoyed his work. "Morning, folks," Rourke said. He settled into his chair and scanned the docket. His eyes passed over Malik without interest. Then they returned and lingered. "Mr. Avery, first time in my courtroom." "Yes, Your Honor," Malik said. "Well, we run a fair ship here. You'll see that soon enough." Rourke turned to greet the prosecutor. They exchanged pleasantries about weather and weekend plans. The courtroom felt casual, almost warm. Then Dante Pierce's case was called. Dante stood with his attorney. His mother whispered near the front row without reprimand. Rourke's voice was gentle. "Dante, I see you're maintaining your grades. That's good. Real good." "Thank you, Your Honor," Dante said. "You keep that up. This was a mistake. Mistakes happen. You understand consequences now, don't you?" "Yes, sir." Rourke smiled and reduced Dante's community service hours. Dante's mother beamed. The courtroom exhaled relief. Malik felt the air change when his turn came. The warmth evaporated. Rourke's smile remained but shifted into something else. A teacher selecting a student for demonstration. Elena stood and started to speak. Rourke raised one finger. "Counselor, let's keep this simple. I have questions for young Mr. Avery." Elena's jaw tightened. She sat down. Malik felt his chest tighten. Rourke leaned forward. His voice was kind, fatherly even. "Now, Malik, we're going to play a little game. I call it Truth or Lie. It helps young people learn accountability. You ready?" Malik's breath caught. The courtroom leaned in. Rourke explained the rules with theatrical patience. Each statement Malik made would be judged as truth or lie. The courtroom would learn together. "Were you at the gas station on March 14th? Rourke asked. "Yes, but I need to explain. Truth or lie, son? Which is it?" Malik's throat tightened. "Truth." "Good. See how easy that is?" Rourke gestured to the room. Several people smiled. "Were you with Dante Pierce?" "Yes, Your Honor, but truth or lie?" "Truth." Elena stood halfway. "Your Honor, the defendant should be allowed to provide context." Rourke's smile sharpened into warning. His voice was gentle when he spoke. "Counselor, we're teaching here. Sit down." Elena felt her knees weaken. She sat. Malik watched her fold under pressure. Something inside him went cold. Rourke continued. "Did you take merchandise without paying?" "No, I was waiting for Dante to—" "Yes or no, Malik?" "It's not that simple." "Truth or lie?" Rourke's voice hardened slightly. "Did merchandise leave the store?" Malik felt trapped. "Yes." "But you just said you didn't take anything. So which is it? Truth or lie?" The courtroom chuckled. Nervous energy seeking permission to laugh. Malik's face burned. His hands trembled at his sides. I didn't take it. Dante put it in my bag without my knowledge. That's a convenient story. Rourke looked at the prosecutor. Isn't it always someone else's fault? More laughter, softer now, uncomfortable. Malik felt humiliation crawl up his neck. He refused to let his voice break. Your Honor, I'm trying to explain the truth. The truth is simple, son. You were there. Merchandise was stolen. You're making this complicated because you don't want to accept responsibility. Elena's breath caught. She saw the trap clearly now. Every answer became evidence of dishonesty. Every explanation became defiance. Lila's hands were clasped in prayer. Her lips moved silently. Rourke leaned back. His voice was almost kind. You want to be smart, Malik? Then win my game. The silence stretched across the courtroom. Malik met the judge's eyes and understood. This wasn't about truth. This was about power showing him his place. After the hearing, Malik and Lila walked down the courthouse steps. The sky was too bright for what had happened inside. Spring's sun mocked the darkness he carried. Lila tried to comfort him with practicality. We'll get through it. We always do. Her voice was shaky at the edges. Malik heard the lie. She was terrified. Grandma, I'm okay. You don't have to be. Malik stopped walking. He felt rage braided with something worse. Fear that the system could define him without ever knowing him. Fear that truth didn't matter when power already decided. Elena caught up to them at the bottom step. Her face was tight with shame. She'd stayed quiet. She'd let Rourke humiliate her client. I'm sorry, she said. I should have objected harder. Would it have mattered? Malik asked. Elena didn't answer. They both knew. Lila touched Malik's shoulder. Let's go home. Wait. Malik turned to Elena. His voice was polite, careful. I need a full copy of the discovery. Every page. Elena blinked. Why? Because something's missing. You said so yourself. Something shifted in Elena's face. She looked at this 17-year-old boy and saw someone she hadn't expected. Someone who understood how systems worked. I'll try, she said. Thank you. Malik looked back at the courthouse. The building stood solid and imposing, permanent. He memorized it the way soldiers memorized enemy territory. Lila pulled him toward the car. Baby, let it go. But Malik felt something harden inside him. Not anger, not even defiance. Clarity. He couldn't survive by shrinking. They would still call it guilt. Elena spent the afternoon chasing documents. The clerk's office gave her soft refusals wrapped in polite language. Clerk Marjorie Voss smiled too tightly. The footage log is being updated, Voss said. When will it be ready? Hard to say. System's been glitchy. Elena felt frustration building. It's been 3 weeks. Voss's smile didn't reach her eyes. These things take time. In the hallway, Malik sat with Lila, reading a courthouse pamphlet about defendant rights. He marked words with his finger. His concentration was absolute. Elena watched him and felt uncomfortable. Public defenders learned to manage expectations. They learned to move quickly through cases. They didn't learn to handle clients who studied procedure. Malik looked up. Did you get the log? Not yet. Why not? Elena hesitated. She could deflect. She could tell him to trust the process. Instead, she told the truth. Because they don't want to give it to me. Malik's eyes found hers. That's not legal. I know. So what do we do? Elena felt something stir. Old idealism she'd buried under pragmatism. We file a motion to compel. Will it work? I don't know. Malik nodded slowly. But it makes them choose. Either produce the evidence or admit they're hiding something. Elena's breath caught. He wasn't guessing. He understood strategy. Where did you learn this? She asked. Library. YouTube. A paralegal runs a program at the community center. Elena felt ashamed. She'd assumed ignorance. She'd assumed compliance. Malik had assumed nothing. He stood and walked to Voss's window. His voice was respectful when he spoke. "Ma'am, I'd like to request a copy of my evidence log. It's my right under discovery rules." Voss's hand froze over her stamp. Her throat tightened. She looked at Elena as if asking for rescue. Elena stepped forward. "We're formally requesting the complete file, including the sealed addendum." Voss's face went pale. "That's not for you." "Why not?" Malik asked quietly. The silence hung heavy. Voss looked trapped. Bailiff Darnell Briggs escorted Malik past holding cells toward the exit. He avoided meeting Malik's eyes the way men avoided mirrors when they feared what they might see. Malik noticed Briggs's hands. Steady and capable. Tired. Hands that had lived long enough to learn when silence kept you alive. At the security checkpoint, Briggs offered Malik a pen without a word. The gesture felt like an apology. "Thank you," Malik said. Briggs nodded once. Elena saw the exchange and felt a prick of guilt. A bailiff showed more humanity than she had. Malik paused before leaving. "Mr. Briggs, does the judge always do games like that?" Briggs's jaw clenched. His eyes flickered toward the courtroom doors. When he spoke, his voice was low. "Not always." "When did it start?" Briggs didn't answer immediately. He looked at Malik and saw something that made him uncomfortable. A kid who should have been protected, who wasn't. "Recently. Past year, maybe." "Does he do it to everyone?" The silence stretched between them. Briggs's hands tightened on his belt. Malik waited without pushing. "No," Briggs finally said. "Not everyone." Malik felt the weight of that admission. The cruelty wasn't random. It was practiced. It was selective. "Thank you for telling me the truth," Malik said. Briggs looked away. "Don't thank me. I didn't stop it." "You're talking to me now. That counts for something." Something shifted in Briggs's expression. Shame mixed with something else. Recognition, maybe. That staying quiet hurt more than speaking up scared him. Elena touched Malik's elbow. "We should go." Malik followed her out. Briggs watched them leave. His chest felt tight, like something had cracked open that he'd kept sealed for years. He'd survived by keeping his head down. But survival wasn't the same as living right. That evening, Malik spread papers on Lila's kitchen table. He arranged them like a map of enemy territory. Lila stood at the stove stirring soup she didn't want to eat. "Baby, you need to let this go." "I can't." "Yes, you can. You take the plea, you do the hours, you move on." Malik looked at her. Her voice was desperate. She wasn't arguing for the plea because she believed in it. She was arguing because she knew what happened to people who challenged power without protection. "Grandma, if I stay?" "Quiet. They win. If you fight, you lose worse." "Maybe." Malik touched the missing pages in the file. "But they'll know I didn't go quiet." Lila's hands shook. She set down the spoon and sat across from him. Her eyes were wet. "You're all I have left. I can't lose you to some judge's pride." Malik felt his throat tighten. "You taught me to stand up for myself. I taught you to survive. They're not the same thing." The silence hung between them. Lila reached across the table and gripped his hand. Hard enough to hurt. "Please," she whispered. The phone rang. Elena's name appeared on the screen. Malik answered. Her voice was strained. "The judge set the next hearing in 5 days. He denied my continuance request. He's calling it discipline." Malik felt something harden in his chest. Of course he did. "Malik, I don't know if we can win this." We can make the record. That's enough. Elena was quiet for a moment. You sound very sure. I'm not. But I can't survive by shrinking. They'll still call it guilt. After he hung up, Malik opened a worn legal handbook. The pages were already annotated in neat handwriting. Notes from late nights at the library. Preparation for a fight he'd hoped he'd never need. Lila watched him. She was afraid. She was also proud. Both things were true. Malik's breath caught as he found the section on judicial misconduct. His finger traced the words, requirements for recusal, standards for bias. What are you looking for? Lila asked. A way through, Malik said. Outside, the night was quiet. Inside, a 17-year-old boy prepared to fight a system designed to break him. He wouldn't fight loudly. He would fight correctly. Elena met Malik the next morning outside the courthouse. She carried coffee and exhaustion in equal measure. Her voice was careful when she spoke. I think we should talk about the plea again. Malik looked at her without anger. What changed? Nothing. That's the problem. Elena sat on the courthouse steps. If we push harder, I lose the cooperation I need for other clients. So I'm the sacrifice. That's not what I'm saying. It's what you mean. Malik's voice stayed gentle. I need you to file a motion to compel disclosure. Elena felt her chest tighten. Challenging this court meant burning bridges she relied on. Bridges that helped dozens of kids like Malik. If I do that, the judge will retaliate. He'll make everything harder. For you, for me, for everyone. Malik sat beside her. Miss Park, do you know what chain of custody means? Elena blinked at the shift. Of course. The missing pages show gaps in the evidence timeline. If we can prove the evidence was mishandled, the case falls apart. He explained it the way a teacher explained concepts to a willing student, not condescending, inviting her into a better version of herself. Elena felt something old stir awake. The idealism she'd carried in law school, before burnout taught her to compromise. You really think we can win? She asked. I think we can make them choose between truth and exposure. Elena's hands shook slightly when she opened her laptop. She drafted the motion right there on the steps. Her fingers hesitated over the submit button. Malik waited. He didn't push. He simply existed beside her with quiet certainty. Elena pressed submit. Her breath caught. Done, she said. They walked into the courthouse together. At the clerk's window, Voss stamped the motion without looking up. When she did glance at Elena, her voice was almost kind. You're making enemies. Elena felt fear and something else, something that felt like being alive again. I know, she said. Elena tried to access the sealed addendum through proper channels. She filed requests, she cited rules, she ran into a wall of policy that smelled like personal protection. Malik waited in the corridor while she argued. His presence was patient, undemanding. When the clerk refused again, Malik stepped forward. Ma'am, which specific rule prevents disclosure? Voss's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? I'd like to know the exact statute, for my understanding. His voice was calm, curious, relentless. Voss looked at Elena as if she'd trained a attack dog to use legal language. It's sealed by judicial order. Under what authority? Malik asked. I don't have to explain that to you. Actually, you do. Discovery rules require... Enough. Voss's voice was sharp. The answer is no. Malik didn't argue. He simply pulled out his phone and made a note. Voss watched him with growing unease. In court that afternoon, Judge Rourke dismissed the motion with theatrical flair. He gestured broadly and smiled at the gallery. It appears Ms. Park has been influenced by a clever young man. I admire enthusiasm. But this court runs on procedure, not performance. Laughter rippled through the room. Elena's face burned. Malik's cheeks burned hotter. "Your Honor," Malik said quietly, "I'd like my objection entered into the record." The room went silent. Rourke's smile thinned. "You don't get to make objections, son. You have an attorney." "Then I respectfully request my attorney object to the denial without cause." Elena stood on shaking legs. "Your Honor, I object. The motion cited clear procedural grounds." Rourke leaned back. His voice was silk over steel. "Noted. Overruled. Ms. Park, control your client." Malik felt humiliation settle in his stomach, but he kept his voice steady. "Your Honor, will the court explain the legal basis for—" "That's enough!" Rourke pointed his gavel. "Let the record show the defendant enjoys theatrics." Malik's throat tightened. His eyes found Rourke's. The judge stared back with cold certainty. Power always won these games. Always. But Malik didn't look away. Outside the courtroom, Malik watched Dante Pierce laugh near the vending machines. His friends surrounded him with easy comfort. No fear, no shame. Dante's mother approached a deputy. They spoke with the warmth of neighbors. The deputy's posture softened. He smiled and nodded. Malik's humiliation sharpened into clarity. The system wasn't broken. It was selective. Elena stood beside him and saw the contrast. For the first time, she couldn't pretend it was merely unfortunate. The difference was stark, deliberate. "Does Dante have the same charges?" Malik asked. "Similar." "Same evidence?" Elena hesitated. "I don't know. His file is sealed too." "But he's not fighting to see it." "No." Malik watched Dante's easy movements. No courthouse haunted his sleep. No judge turned him into a teaching moment. "I don't want him destroyed," Malik said quietly. "I just want the truth where it belongs." Elena felt her chest tighten. Malik's anger was clean, focused, not on Dante but on the system that protected one and crushed the other. She spotted movement near the clerk's office. Dante's father shook hands with someone in a suit. The exchange looked familiar. Casual, the kind of handshake that came with history. Elena pulled out her phone and made a note. Malik saw her hands shake. "What is it?" he asked. "I don't know yet, but something's wrong." They walked to Elena's car in silence. Malik felt the weight of unequal justice pressing down. It wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It just was. Lila called as they reached the parking lot. Her voice was tight. "Baby, come home. Please." "I will, Grandma." "Now, Malik. Please." Something in her voice made Malik's stomach drop. Fear. Real and immediate. Elena drove him home without asking questions. When they arrived, Lila stood on the porch holding an envelope. Her hands trembled when she gave it to him. Inside was a letter, anonymous, threatening, warning him to drop the case. Bailiff Briggs found Malik alone in the hallway the next morning. He glanced around before speaking. His voice was low, careful. "The judge's games. They're new." Malik looked at him, waiting, not pushing. "Past year, maybe. They got worse recently." "Why?" Malik asked. Briggs's jaw clenched. "I don't know, but I've seen things. Small errors in records, they always lean one way." "What way?" "The way that protects certain people, hurts others." Malik felt his chest tighten. "Have you ever reported it?" Briggs's silence was heavy with shame. He looked at this 17-year-old and saw accusation. Not in Malik's eyes, in the mirror of his own conscience. "I have a mortgage," Briggs said. "I have a future." The words hung between them. Not cruel, just true. Briggs felt something crack in his chest. Elena appeared at the end of the hall. She saw them talking and slowed her approach. Briggs straightened. "I didn't say anything," he muttered. "Yes, you did," Malik said quietly. Thank you. Briggs walked away quickly. Elena watched him go with new understanding. She turned to Malik. What did he tell you? That we're not imagining things. Elena's breath caught. Would he testify? I don't know. He's scared. Of what? Malik looked at her. Of losing everything for telling the truth. Same as you. Elena felt the hit land. She'd been ready to sacrifice Malik's case to protect her position. Briggs was protecting his livelihood. They were all making the same calculation: survival versus integrity. If I could guarantee his statement would matter, Elena said slowly. If I could promise it wouldn't just disappear into a file, would he talk? Malik considered. Maybe, if he believed it would actually change something. Elena pulled out her phone. I have a contact at the State Ethics Board. She owes me a favor. Will she listen? I don't know, but I'm done being careful. Something shifted in Malik's expression. Hope mixed with fear. Elena saw it and felt the weight of responsibility. She couldn't promise victory, but she could promise effort. That had to be enough. Elena bought Malik coffee at a shop 2 blocks from the courthouse. They sat at a corner table. Her voice was genuinely curious when she spoke. Where did you learn to talk like this? The legal language, the procedure? Malik wrapped his hands around the cup. Library, free online lectures. A retired paralegal runs a program at the community center. Why did you start studying? Because I knew I'd end up here eventually. Malik's voice was matter-of-fact. Young black guy in a small town. It wasn't if. It was when. Elena felt her throat tighten. That's a hard way to grow up. It's realistic. Malik met her eyes. I didn't study to win. I studied to understand what could be used against me. And how to survive. How to survive with dignity. There's a difference. Elena felt her assumptions cracking. She'd expected trauma. She'd expected anger. She hadn't expected discipline, strategic thinking. A 17-year-old preparing for institutional failure with the thoroughness of a general planning for war. You cited a rule yesterday, she said. From memory. How many have you memorized? Enough. Malik, you could be a lawyer. He smiled without humor. If I survive being a defendant first. Elena winced. I'm sorry I didn't believe in you from the start. You were being practical. I understand that. No, I was being a coward. There's a difference. Malik studied her. Something shifted in his posture. Less guarded. Ms. Park, can I show you something? He pulled out his legal handbook. The margins were filled with annotations, questions, cross-references, evidence of hundreds of hours of careful study. Elena flipped through pages. Her breath caught. This is law school level analysis. It's survival level. She reached a section on judicial bias. Malik had highlighted specific passages, made notes about standards of proof, requirements for recusal. You were planning this, Elena said. I was hoping I'd never need it, but I wasn't going to be unprepared. Elena felt the power dynamic shift. She was still his attorney, but he was now her partner, not in name, in truth. Teach me what you see, she said. Malik's voice was quiet when he answered. Okay. For the first time, Elena felt hope that wasn't built on wishful thinking. At the next hearing, Malik requested permission to address the court. His voice was respectful, precise. Judge Rourke smiled and gestured grandly. By all means, let's hear what you have to say. The courtroom leaned forward, anticipating entertainment. Malik felt their attention settle on him. He kept his breathing steady. Your Honor, I'd like to respectfully raise a procedural concern. Under Rule 16, Section 3, Discovery must be provided within 14 days of arraignment. It's been 22 days. The delayed timeline combined with withheld materials undermines my right to adequate preparation. The room went quiet. Rourke's smile wavered. Counselor Park, is your client reading from a script? No, Your Honor. He's citing the rules. Malik continued. Additionally, the accelerated hearing schedule, 5 days instead of the standard 30, creates compounded prejudice. I'm not requesting dismissal, just compliance with existing procedure. Several people shifted uncomfortably. The clerk reached for a reference book. Her fingers moved quickly through pages. Rourke's voice sharpened. Young man, this court determines its own calendar. Yes, Your Honor, but the rules provide minimum standards regardless of calendar discretion. Malik's voice never rose. Never challenged. He simply stated facts with the calm of someone reading a recipe. The clerk's face went pale. She whispered something to her assistant. The assistant checked a computer screen and nodded. Rourke saw the confirmation. His jaw tightened. The courtroom's amusement thinned into confusion. Counselor Park, Rourke said, control your client. Elena stood. Her voice was stronger than before. Your Honor, my client is correctly citing procedural rules. I request the court address his concerns. Request denied. On what grounds? Elena asked. The room went silent. It was a direct question, the kind that required an answer or revealed avoidance. Rourke leaned forward. His smile was gone. I said enough. Malik spoke quietly. Not yet, Your Honor. The judge's eyes flashed. Excuse me? The rule requires a response, not just dismissal. Rourke's knuckles went white on his gavel. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. The room felt it. The shift from confident authority to exposed irritation. We'll take a recess, Rourke snapped. He left the bench without waiting for the bailiff's call. The courtroom sat in shocked silence. Malik's breath caught. His hands shook slightly, but he'd done it. He'd made the judge blink. When court resumed, Judge Rourke was composed. Too composed. His smile was back, but colder. Sharper. This court values decorum above all else. I'm issuing a warning. Any further interruptions will be treated as contempt. Elena felt the old instinct to retreat, to keep her clients safe by staying agreeable. But now she saw how agreeable was just another form of surrender. Your Honor, my client's questions were procedural, not disruptive. Counselor, you're new here. Let me educate you. In my courtroom, I decide what's disruptive. The threat was clear. Malik absorbed the judge's words without reacting, but the cost showed in the tension of his shoulders. His hands were steady. His jaw was not. Rourke continued the hearing with excessive formality. He warned Malik about posture, tone, eye contact, small infractions that existed only because Rourke named them. Elena filed an objection to the decorum warnings. Rourke denied it without explanation. In the hallway afterward, Lila gripped Malik's hand. Her lips moved in silent prayer. She looked older than she had a week ago. Elena's phone buzzed. An email from her supervisor. The subject line read, Case Management Concerns. She opened it with shaking hands. The email implied she was overcomplicating a simple juvenile matter, suggested she might benefit from reviewing office priorities. Elena stared at the screen. The pressure came from everywhere, above, below, inside. Malik saw her expression. What is it? Nothing, just work. Ms. Park, I need you to tell me the truth. Elena's voice was tight when she answered. They're trying to make me back down. My office, the judge, everyone. Will you? Elena looked at this 17-year-old who refused to shrink, who studied law in libraries because he knew the system would one day come for him, who was calm when he should have been terrified. She thought about the lawyer she'd wanted to be, before exhaustion, before compromise. "No," she said. "I won't." Malik's breath caught, relief and fear in equal measure. "Thank you." They walked to the parking lot together. Elena felt the weight of what she'd committed to. Briggs watched from the courthouse door. His expression was unreadable, but something in his posture had changed, like a man deciding whether to keep carrying something heavy or finally set it down. Elena managed a small victory the following week. A judge from another county ordered partial disclosure of the evidence log. Not the footage, just the log. The courthouse buzzed with surprise. Elena felt triumph surge through her. Then she read the document. Unavailable. Misfiled. Under review. The log was incomplete, strategic gaps that gave the appearance of compliance while protecting the core secret. Malik read it at Elena's office. His face stayed calm, but his voice was tight when he spoke. "This is a trick." "It's something," Elena said. "It's a way to look fair while staying protected. They gave us nothing that matters." Elena felt the deflation. She'd fought hard for this. It should have felt like progress. Instead, it felt like being handed an empty box and told to be grateful. That afternoon, Malik left the courthouse and found Dante in the parking lot. Dante was laughing with friends, carefree, untouched by stress. Dante saw Malik and smirked. "Heard you think you're a lawyer now." The words hit harder because they echoed Rourke's contempt. Malik's hands tightened into fists, then released. "I'm just trying to get fair treatment," he said quietly. "By making everyone's life harder, real smart." Malik walked past without responding. But the words followed him. They settled into the doubt already living in his chest. That night, Lila sat across from him at the kitchen table. Her voice was gentle, pleading. "Baby, maybe it's time to accept the plea. This is killing you." Malik's voice was tired. "It's killing you too. I can handle it. You shouldn't have to." "Grandma, if I take the plea, they win. They get to say I was guilty, that I deserved the games, the humiliation, all of it. But you'd be free. I'd be quiet. That's not the same as free." Lila's eyes filled with tears. She reached across the table. "I'm so tired of being afraid." Malik gripped her hand. His own eyes were wet. "Me too." The phone rang. Elena. Her voice was strained when Malik answered. "The judge scheduled the final hearing 2 weeks from today." "That's too soon." "I know. He's escalating, pushing us to fold." Malik was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the night pressed against the windows. Inside, doubt whispered in his ear. "Miss Park, what if truth isn't enough?" Elena heard the exhaustion in his voice. The fear. She wanted to promise victory. She couldn't. "Then we make sure everyone hears it anyway," she said. After hanging up, Malik sat alone at the table. His legal handbook lay open. The pages blurred through unshed tears. He'd studied so hard, prepared so carefully, and he still didn't know if any of it mattered. Elena called the Regional Judicial Oversight Office. She explained the pattern, the games, the missing evidence, the accelerated timeline designed to prevent adequate defense. The receptionist transferred her 3 times. Each person sounded sympathetic. None offered help. Finally, a supervisor came on the line. His voice was careful. "Judge Rourke has an excellent reputation. These are serious allegations." "I have documentation," Elena said. "Send it through proper channels. We'll review it." "When?" "These investigations take time. Months, usually." Elena's stomach dropped. "The final hearing is in 2 weeks." "Then I suggest you focus on the case at hand, not on speculation about judicial conduct." The call ended. Elena sat in her car outside the courthouse. Her hands shook on the steering wheel. She'd tried. She'd gone through channels. The system protected itself with bureaucracy that moved slower than justice needed. Malik was waiting inside. He saw her face when she entered. His voice was quiet. They said no. They said maybe, eventually, after it's too late to matter. Malik nodded slowly. Something cold settled in his chest. The loneliness of understanding that even adults who meant well could be trained into helplessness. That evening, Briggs saw Malik in the parking lot. He started to approach, then stopped. His feet wouldn't move forward. Malik saw the hesitation. The internal war. Briggs turned and walked back toward the courthouse. Elena called Malik that night. Her voice was strained. My supervisor wants to reassign your case. Says I'm too emotionally invested. Will they? If I keep pushing, yes. Then what do we do? Elena's breath caught. We make the record so loud they can't ignore it. Every objection, every procedural violation, every moment of bias, we document everything. Even if it doesn't change the outcome? Especially then, because someone else will read it someday, and they'll see what happened here. Malik felt tears prick his eyes. Not from hope, from the grim determination of someone who knew he might lose, but refused to disappear quietly. Okay, he said. We fight. After hanging up, Malik whispered into the empty kitchen. What if it's not enough? No one answered. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, a 17-year-old carried the weight of a battle he never asked for. Elena confronted Clerk Voss the next morning. Not with accusations, with careful questions that required honest answers or obvious lies. The evidence log shows footage was logged on March 15th, but the incident occurred on March 14th. Can you explain the discrepancy? Voss's face tightened. Clerical error. The chain of custody form is missing 2 signatures, required signatures. Why? I don't know. I didn't handle that file personally. But you're responsible for file integrity, correct? Voss's hands trembled. You don't understand what it's like working under powerful men. Their moods, their expectations. Elena's voice softened. I do understand. I'm in the same position. Then you should know when to stop. I can't. Not anymore. Voss looked past Elena to where Lila sat on a bench. The old woman's face was lined with exhaustion. Her hands were clasped in prayer. Something shifted in Voss's expression. Not agreement, recognition, a fear that looked like her own. I can't help you, Voss said. Can't or won't. Voss didn't answer, but her hand moved to a drawer. She opened it slightly, then closed it. Elena saw the movement. What's in there? Elena asked quietly. Nothing that will save you, but something that matters. Voss's jaw clenched. She looked around the empty office. Her voice was barely a whisper. There's a docket note, timestamp that doesn't match the official record. Can I see it? No, but it exists. If someone requested an independent audit, they'd find it. Elena's breath caught. Why are you telling me this? Voss looked at Lila again. Because I'm tired of helping powerful men hurt people who can't fight back. She pulled a single sheet of paper from the drawer, placed it on the counter, then walked away without another word. Elena grabbed the paper, a docket notation showing the judge received evidence summaries before they were officially logged. Small, technical, devastating. Malik appeared at her shoulder. What is it? Leverage, Elena said. Her hands shook. But for the first time in weeks, the shaking came from possibility instead of fear. Briggs found Elena in the courthouse cafeteria. He sat down without asking permission. His voice was low, urgent. If I talk, can you guarantee it won't just disappear? Elena's heart raced. I have a contact at the State Ethics Board. She'll take it seriously. That's not a guarantee. No, but it's better than silence. Briggs's hands were flat on the table. They looked older than they had weeks ago, tired in a way that came from carrying shame too long. I've worked here 18 years. I have 3 kids, a mortgage, health insurance through this job. I know what I'm asking, Elena said. Do you? Because I've watched good people lose everything for speaking up. Malik approached the table. He didn't sit, just stood there holding a cup of water. Briggs looked up at him. You really think this matters? Briggs asked. I think staying quiet makes us part of it, Malik said. Briggs felt something crack in his chest. This kid, 17 years old, facing down a system designed to crush him, and still believing truth mattered. What did you overhear? Elena asked gently. Briggs took a breath, let it out slowly. I heard the judge tell the prosecutor that certain details didn't need to enter the record, that some cases should be handled quietly. When? 3 months ago, maybe 4. Which cases? Briggs's voice dropped to a whisper. Always the same kind of defendant. Young, black, poor. Malik's breath caught. Elena felt rage surge through her chest, hot and righteous. Will you put that in writing? She asked. Briggs's hands trembled. If I do this, I lose my job. If you don't, you lose yourself, Malik said quietly. The words hung in the air. Simple, true, devastating. Briggs looked at Malik and saw a mirror. Not of age or circumstance, of choice, fight or surrender, integrity or survival. He couldn't watch another kid get crushed while he stayed silent. Okay, Briggs said. I'll do it. Elena drafted the affidavit on her laptop. Briggs read it 3 times. His hand shook when he signed his name. The moment the pen lifted, his phone buzzed. A text from the court administrator. We need to talk. Now. Briggs's face went pale. They already know. Malik touched his shoulder. Thank you for choosing truth. Briggs nodded. He looked older, lighter, like he'd been carrying a weight so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand straight. I should have done this years ago, he said. Then he walked toward his reckoning. Elena and Malik watched him go. He's going to lose everything, Elena said. He's going to get himself back, Malik replied. The evening before the final hearing, Elena received an official notice. Judge Rourke had issued a warning through court channels. Any further grandstanding would be met with contempt charges. Elena stared at the document. The threat was clear. Comply or face consequences. Her career, her license, everything. Her supervisor called. His voice was tight with frustration. Elena, this has gone far enough. Take the plea. Move on. The kid is innocent. The kid is expendable. Your career shouldn't be. What kind of lawyer does that make me? A smart one. Drop this crusade. Elena hung up. Her hands were shaking. She called Malik. They're threatening contempt if we don't back down. Malik was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to do? I want to fight, but I'm scared. Me too. Your grandmother called me today. She begged me to convince you to take the plea. Malik's voice was tight. What did you tell her? That it's your choice, not mine, not hers. At Lila's house, the kitchen was dark except for one lamp. Lila sat across from Malik. Her face was lined with exhaustion that went deeper than sleeplessness. Baby, please, just take the plea. Let this end. I can't. Why not? Her voice broke. Why can't you just keep your head down? Because if I go quiet now, I'll be quiet forever. Tears ran down Lila's face. I'm so afraid. Every day you walk into that courthouse, I'm afraid you won't walk out. Malik felt his own tears come. I'm afraid too. But staying small didn't protect me. It never does. You're all I have left. I know. And you raised me to stand up for myself. I'm doing what you taught me. Lila gripped his hands, hard enough to hurt. I taught you to survive. You taught me to live with dignity. There's a difference. The silence stretched between them. Lila's shoulders shook with sobs. Malik held her while she cried. When she finally pulled back, her voice was hoarse. If you're going to do this, do it right. Don't give them an excuse. I won't. Make them see you. Really see you. Malik nodded. His throat was too tight for words. That night, he lay awake staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, everything would be decided. He'd prepared as well as he could, studied every rule, memorized every procedure. But preparation didn't guarantee justice. Sometimes the system won simply because it was the system. Malik whispered into the darkness. Please let truth be enough. The courtroom was full. Word had spread that the smart kid was challenging Judge Rourke. People came to watch, some curious, some hungry for drama. Malik sat beside Elena. His hands were steady in his lap, his heart hammered against his ribs. Judge Rourke entered through the side door. He wore his authority with practiced ease. His smile was broad and confident, the smile of a man who knew the room belonged to him. Good morning, everyone. We're here to resolve this matter fairly and efficiently. Elena stood. Her voice was stronger than it had been weeks ago. Your Honor, before we begin, I have procedural concerns to raise. Of course you do. Rourke's voice was indulgent, mocking. The court will hear them briefly. The defense requests that all court commentary be formally transcribed, not summarized, fully transcribed. Rourke's smile wavered. That's standard practice, Counselor. With respect, Your Honor, it's not. Informal comments are often excluded. I'm requesting every word be preserved. The courtroom shifted. People leaned forward. This was different than expected. Motion granted, Rourke said, too quickly. Anything else? Yes. The defense requests clarification on evidentiary standards given the incomplete discovery record. We've been over this, and we've received no adequate explanation. Rourke's jaw tightened. Counselor Park, you're testing my patience. I'm protecting my client's rights. The air in the courtroom changed. Tension replaced curiosity. Malik watched the judge's face, saw irritation crack through confidence. Rourke turned to Malik. His voice was soft, dangerous. Young man, we're going to play our game again. Truth or lie. You remember how it works? Malik's breath caught. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Were you at the gas station on March 14th? Your Honor, I object, Elena said. This methodology has been demonstrated to overruled. Answer the question, Malik. Malik felt the familiar trap closing. But this time, something was different. The courtroom was watching. Really watching. The transcriptionist's fingers were moving, recording every word. I need to provide context to answer accurately, Malik said calmly. Yes or no? The question requires context, Your Honor. A yes or no answer would be incomplete and misleading. The courtroom went silent. Rourke leaned forward. I'm asking a simple question. And I'm requesting the right to answer truthfully, which requires more than a binary response. The silence stretched. Heavy. Dangerous. Elena stood. Your Honor, forcing the defendant into false simplicity is itself a form of... That's enough! Rourke's voice cracked like a whip. The courtroom flinched. Malik didn't. His eyes found the judges, and held them. Elena stepped forward. Her voice was clear and measured. Your Honor, The so-called truth or lie methodology demonstrates systematic bias. It forces complex situations into false binaries, coerces incomplete testimony, then frames resistance as dishonesty. Counselor, you're out of line. I'm protecting the record. Every comment, every question, every forced simplification. I request it all be preserved for appeal. Rourke's face flushed. There won't be an appeal. Then you have nothing to fear from transparency. The courtroom buzzed. Quiet murmurs, shifting postures. Rourke felt control slipping like sand through his fingers. Bailiff Briggs, Elena called. The defense calls Bailiff Darnell Briggs as a witness. Briggs stood from his position near the door. He walked to the witness stand with the slow deliberation of a man approaching his own judgment. He was sworn in, sat down. His eyes found Malik's briefly, then looked away. Elena's voice was gentle. Mr. Briggs, how long have you worked in this courthouse? 18 years. Have you observed judicial proceedings involving juvenile defendants during that time? Yes. Have you noticed any patterns in how defendants are treated? Briggs's jaw clenched. His voice was rough when he spoke. Yes. Please describe what you've observed. Briggs took a breath. Let it out slowly. I've heard Judge Rourke instruct that certain details shouldn't enter the record, that some cases should be handled quietly. The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers. Rourke slammed his gavel. Order! Bailiff, you're mistaken. No, sir, I'm not. You're confused. I heard you. 3 months ago. You told the prosecutor that the Pierce case needed protection, that the Avery case needed discipline. Malik's breath caught. Elena felt triumph surge through her chest. Rourke's voice was ice. This is slander. It's testimony under oath, Elena said. She pulled documents from her folder. The defense also presents a sworn affidavit from Mr. Briggs detailing these observations, and a docket notation from Clerk Voss showing evidence summaries were provided to the court before official logging. Voss sat in the gallery. Her face was pale, but she didn't deny it. Rourke attempted to speak. His voice faltered. For the first time, uncertainty replaced authority. This is a coordinated attack on this court's integrity. No, Your Honor, Elena said. This is evidence of systematic bias. The pattern is clear. Incomplete records, accelerated timelines, public humiliation disguised as teaching, all targeting specific defendants. She gestured to Malik. My client has been denied due process, not through error, through design. The courtroom was silent. Every eye on the judge, waiting. Elena's voice was steady when she continued. The defense requests immediate recusal and a formal ethics review, on the record, for everyone to hear. The words hung in the air. Final. Irrevocable. Rourke stared at Elena, then at Malik. His face showed something that might have been fear, or rage, or recognition that he'd been caught. The courtroom doors opened. A woman in a suit entered. She identified herself as a state judicial official, summoned by the ethics board. Rourke's authority cracked in real time. The judicial official requested a recess. When court resumed, Clerk Voss was called to testify. She approached the stand with trembling hands. Elena's questions were direct. Ms. Voss, did you omit pages from the discovery file? Voss's voice was barely audible. Yes. On whose instruction? I received guidance that certain documents weren't necessary for disclosure. From whom? Voss looked at Judge Rourke. Then away. From the court. Did you understand this to be routine practice? I understood it to be expected. Elena presented the docket notation. The timestamp contradiction. Voss confirmed its authenticity. The courtroom listened in heavy silence. When Voss stepped down, she looked at Malik. Her eyes held apology and shame. Malik nodded once. Acknowledgement without absolution. Dante's father stood from the gallery. This is ridiculous. You're destroying a good judge over— Sit down, Mr. Pierce, the judicial official said. I have a right to— You have the right to remain silent, which I suggest you exercise. Pierce's face went red. He sat. The familiarity between him and the judge suddenly looked less like friendship, more like conspiracy. The official turned to Rourke. Your Honor, given the testimony presented, I'm recommending immediate suspension pending full investigation. Rourke's voice was tight. This is unprecedented. So is the pattern of documented bias. I've served this community for 20 years, which makes this more disappointing, not less. The words landed with finality. Rourke looked at Malik, really looked at him for the first time, and something shifted in his expression. Not guilt, recognition, that he'd underestimated this quiet boy, that his casual cruelty had been witnessed, recorded, exposed. The official addressed Elena. Does the defendant wish to make a statement? Elena looked at Malik. He stood slowly. His legs felt weak. His voice was steady when he spoke. Your Honor, I don't want revenge. I wanted fairness. I studied law because I knew I'd need it. Not to win games, to survive them. His voice was calm. What happened here isn't about me. It's about everyone who came before me. Everyone who didn't have time to study, who didn't know the rules, who took pleas because fighting seemed impossible. The courtroom was silent. Some people looked ashamed. Others looked angry. All looked uncomfortable. The law is supposed to protect the weak from the strong, but it only works when people use it honestly, when judges judge, when lawyers defend, when truth matters more than convenience. Malik's eyes found Rourke's. I don't hate you, Your Honor, but I won't let you turn me into a joke, or a lesson, or a game. His breath caught. I'm a person. That's enough. The silence stretched, heavy with weight no one could name. Finally, the judicial official spoke. Proceedings are suspended pending review. The defendant is released on his own recognizance. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell. The sound echoed. Final. Malik's knees almost gave out. Elena caught his elbow. Lila pushed through the crowd, her arms wrapped around him. She sobbed into his shoulder. The courtroom emptied slowly. Whispers, stares, some sympathetic, some hostile. Malik felt it all, but he was still standing. Rourke sat at the bench alone, looking at the empty room. The poster about equal justice peeled a little more in the corner. 3 weeks later, Malik walked out of the courthouse for the last time. The charges were dismissed, the record expunged, like the nightmare never happened. Except it had, and everyone knew. The sun was bright overhead, too bright for early spring. Lila waited on the steps. Her face looked younger than it had in weeks. The fear had lifted, not completely, but enough. You ready to go home, baby? Yes, ma'am. Elena appeared beside them. She carried a folder of documents. Her supervisor had reassigned her to harder cases, punishment disguised as workload management. She wore it like armor now. Not a burden. Proof that she'd chosen integrity over comfort. The ethics board wants your testimony, she told Malik, for the full investigation. I'll do it. It might take months. That's okay. I'm not going anywhere. Elena smiled. Tired but real. You're going to college, law school maybe. Maybe. Briggs emerged from the courthouse. He'd been suspended during the investigation. No pay, no certainty about his future. But his shoulders were straight. His eyes were clear. He approached Malik slowly. I wanted to say thank you. For what? For making me remember who I wanted to be. Malik's throat tightened. You did that yourself? No. You showed me it was possible. That's different. They shook hands. Two people who'd found their courage at different times. For different reasons. But courage nonetheless. Lila watched Malik pause beneath the Equal Justice poster, still peeling at the corner, still promising something the building didn't always deliver. He didn't look angry or triumphant, just peaceful, like someone who'd carried something heavy and finally set it down. What are you thinking? Lila asked. That silence isn't the price of survival anymore. She gripped his hand. No, baby, it's not. They walked down the steps together, into sunlight that felt earned. The world hadn't changed. The courthouse would still fail people. Judges would still abuse power. Systems would still protect themselves. But Malik had changed. He'd learned truth was worth fighting for, even when the fight was hard, even when victory wasn't guaranteed. Dignity wasn't permission granted by power. It was a truth you carried until the world was forced to see it. He carried it now, and he wouldn't set it down again.